something. I guess it will. Okay. Interviews. I'm back with Revy Innovations, and we're going to continue what we were talking about earlier. Well, it was a conversation we had before the October Halloween Horror Month thing, and we were talking about the habits of rich people, and of course, there's a lot of conspiracy around the rich and the wealthy. And it brought us to our second part of the conversation. Basically, okay, so if rich people are basically very similar to normal folks, they're not conspiring against us, they don't have these crazy clubs, at least from Revy's, knowledge, then what is wealth and power? What about the ones that want to gain wealth and power? Because we do know they exist. We do know that there's things going on in certain parts of society, so it does kind of make you wonder, what is the obsession with wealth and power? So, Revy, go ahead and tell us a little bit about what you think of regarding wealth and power when it comes to the wealthy.
Yeah. What are rich people doing when they seek wealth and power? That's actually kind of a weird question. So the best way of describing it is if you look at Breaking Bad and what's his face, Heisenberg does the whole mess kingpin thing, right? Mm-hmm. And at the end of the show, he's like, because he starts off doing it for his family, right? But at a certain point, it's like you have enough money that it's like any more money you get just brings more attention to your family, which is bad.
Yeah.
So at the end of Breaking Bad, Walter is basically like, I'm doing this because I'm doing this for myself, and I'm basically building an empire. And that's the closest thing that I've seen people in my own life do in terms of why they're accumulating so much money, like way more money than they can spend.
Right.
In a reasonable, like in their lifetime.
Wow.
In the case of my dad, anyways, he has a business. He has a business. He has employees, and it's kind of become this self-perpetuating thing where he can't slow down the business because if he slows down the business, his employees lose their jobs.
Sure.
That's part of it. That's how he justifies it. But I think it's more along the lines of that's just to become a habit. Like he got to where he is by basically being a workaholic,
right,
and being super competitive, and that,
right,
like you can't turn that off.
No, I got it. So, do you think that maybe it's a detriment if people are accumulating too much money? Do you think there is a such thing as too much money, having more money than you need? Is that a thing, or?
I mean, like at a certain point, having more money doesn't actually change the way you act.
Right.
Right. Or at least, I don't know. I've seen, for my family anyways,
mm-hmm.
For my family anyways, I would say that us having more money or less money doesn't matter. Like one of the things that, like, my dad's doing more and more stupid stuff. Like he's like my family's just buying random shit, like at this point, and it's like,
right.
It's for my family anyways. We're relatively frugal, and what we're buying is security.
Right.
Do we keep up with the Joneses? Not really.
Right.
At least I don't feel like we do. I mean, we do a pretty good job at, like, our family is more trying to like stay under the radar.
Absolutely.
Or like stay above the river. Our family's trying to stay above the radar, like professionally. So my dad likes his position.
Right.
But we're trying to we're trying to not keep people from realizing that we're rich.
Now, what is the danger there? You said, like, you don't want people to realize you're rich. Is that just going to be people wanting handouts that you're afraid of, or people wanting to steal, or yeah?
There's no reason. Like, there's not a specific reason. It's more like, what is it? Knowledge is power. Guard it closely. something like that.
Right.
With a Warhammer 40K reference. It's like don't tell people information they don't need to know.
Right.
If you're rich, like in my case, I think I've done a pretty good job at like not. I don't know. People can tell I have money.
Right.
But they recognize me as an engineer before they recognize me as someone with money.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's the way it should be.
And like they don't realize, like in the case of my parents, like people realize that like my dad's at the top of his game, and they realize he's probably pretty wealthy, but they have no idea how much money he actually has.
Right.
So
what do you?
Yeah, it's a weird question, but like for my family, anyways, we try to stay under the radar. I'm not sure what other rich people do.
Sure.
It's kind of difficult to tell how rich people are when they go out of their way to conceal their wealth.
Right.
You know, and whether like they're intentionally keeping up with the Joneses or they're intentionally not keeping up with the Joneses. It's interesting.
Right.
Well,
you know,
I can say that.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But going back to the whole like the money and power thing, I don't know what's going on with other people, but I think like in my own case, even like if you're a workaholic, you can't turn that off. And if you've built a company, you just want to see it grow bigger, and you have goals.
Sure.
And it's basically a train, and once you start moving, it's really difficult to make it stop moving. Even though it's like all you have to do is stop working, but like that's really difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad's company is going to die eventually. I mean, like he's going to have to retire eventually.
Right.
I mean, if he works till he's dead, I mean, he's still going to die, and then his company is going to like die like when he does.
Well, yeah.
So
that happens.
like, it's not like it has to end, but it's really difficult to stop working if you're the kind of person.
Right.
Who okay, I thought of another way of putting it. So, have you heard of financial independence, retire early?
Yeah, that's that's that thing where you retire when you're 20 because you've made so much money in your, particular business. I was talking to a guy about that in a server. He said he made millions of dollars in the tech industry. And he said that the price of things are getting so high, he's thinking about going back in. But he said, I retired in my 20s because I thought that I'd pretty much made, more than enough money I need, He's like, oh, I got it. I'm a millionaire now. I don't need any more money. And things got so hard that he decided it was time to try to go back in. But is that kind of what you're talking about, where you've made so much money that you can...
Yeah, that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know how people do that. Because from what I can tell, it's either the type of person who can retire early, basically by working super hard and being super smart. That kind of person is never going to be able to retire.
Right.
So, anyways, that's what the whole money and the power. It's not some kind of like, we're not trying to like accumulate wealth so we can like funnel it to Cthulhu or something. It's more like you built an empire and then it's got to keep going.
Right. I get it. But, maybe it's because of the politics game. But you do know, I mean, we're talking more about these rich, wealthy, these politicians, the world leaders and things like that have all this money and all that. I mean, that's kind of what we were talking about, these really powerful people that kind of want to control. And, I mean, we can't say that there haven't been situations where there have been wealthy people that wanted to control and start wars and things like that. I mean, that's actually happened in history.
Well, they're not necessarily... They're trying to make the world a better place, but they just have a kind of a messed up definition. They're trying to improve the lives of everyone on this earth,
right? Whether
we want them to or not.
Yeah, like the Bill Gates thing with the eating the bugs and all that. Yeah.
Bill Gates is trying to improve the world.
No, but he wants us to eat
consensually or not. That's basically what's going on. He has a lot of money, and when you have that kind of money, you can't just like not do anything with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a sense of altruism, and we have to kind of deal with it. So, yeah, I get it.
Well, there's another thing where, in my case, it's like I'm in a position that I don't quite like, which is that I'm in line for a pretty sizable inheritance.
Sure.
And it makes me feel really awkward because it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And it's like it puts a lot of strings on me, in the sense that like obviously like you're like, why don't I just donate it? It's like, no, it's not that, like it's not like you get the money and it's like you don't just donate it. You have to like be a steward of the money.
Sure, because that money was hard earned over many decades. That was a man's life work was put into that money. I mean, you can't just give it away. And there, and it's really interesting because there was an article I read where they were talking about that the, billionaires were afraid to give the money to their Zoomer kids. Because that's really bad. They're talking about that they may spend all that money, which is frightening, I mean, like I said, everybody's trying to do the Instagram thing and just show off their money. I've never lived in a society where people just wanted to flaunt about how rich they were. I mean, and I'm not saying that, if you do have money, it's bad to show off a nice sports car, nice watch, nice suit, things like that. But it seems like everybody in the entire world now is trying to show how much money they have. And I'm like, man, I know money is a great thing. It brings opportunity. But I think that people maybe have the wrong idea about money these days. I mean,
I think the same reason you don't tell people about your wealth, the same reason they don't tell you the names of the
right.
Mega Millions and all that.
Right.
Because everybody be after you for a handout or investment or who knows what.
Absolutely. And again, we're talking about children spending billions of dollars and on, because they don't know anything about investing. They don't care. They just want to be the latest trend. We have a trend-setting society, and I mean, there's always been trends, even when we were young. But this is ridiculous. It's one thing to the other, and people just aren't focusing on stuff that's important. Like especially in certain cultures where buying a $300 or $400 pair of shoes is all the time is considered an achievement.
Now mine are expensive just because I had to special order my size.
My parents do that.
And one thing about but see, the thing is, these are people that really don't have the kind of money to be spending on that. Now, I could understand if you had the kind of money and that, $300 or $400 pair of shoes is no big deal. But we're talking about people that barely make ends meet, and they're spending $300 or $400 dollars on a pair of shoes just to appear more wealthy than they are. Mainly to attract attention of peers and women and things like that. Yeah, you see this all the time, and it really is a horrible thing in society.
So that's what's been going on. I don't have the right.
I'm not sure those are rich people so much as they are like middle class people pretending to be rich.
Oh, we're not even talking middle class. We're talking paycheck to paycheck, working poor. They have just enough that they can take out money to buy a $300 or $400 pair of shoes every month or so, just so they, like the Jordans or the Yeezys or whatever the big shoe is.
But it ain't easy enough.
Oh well, I know that, but back in the day, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, it was.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah, I don't know how that works. All right, moving on.
Okay.
I guess we're gonna move on to the actual fun stuff.
Okay.
What instances of corruption have I actually seen?
Okay.
And what fun things have I done myself? So this is gonna You might as well basically. I'm not sure if the beginning half of this interview was worth anything. But anyways, I've seen things act out completely differently in America
Okay.
and in the home country. Because reminder, I'm an ethnic minority,
Okay.
so I have relatives in another country, and I've seen how they do things
Okay.
in that other country. I can tell you that America is not nearly as corrupt as, I mean, I say that now.
Right.
I say, America is not like a third world country in the sense that the nepotism is not nearly as insane. Not to say there isn't, but so like in the home country, like if people like police can't arrest police can't arrest high social status people.
Wow.
And I guess to a certain extent that applies in America, where you can't arrest like celebrities or politicians.
Yeah. It's getting that way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that doesn't even but you can still arrest like doctors and lawyers.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Or like university professors.
Yes.
But whereas in the home country, like apparently that's not a thing.
Wow.
I also know a guy who he was kind of he comes from a well-established family, but he wasn't that smart, and he figured out a way to be happy. But then what happened was his family pushed him to basically take on a prestige position, and he didn't have the intelligence or ability to fulfill the requirements of that prestige position. And so he's pretty miserable, last time I heard.
Wow.
But that was pure nepotism for that particular instance. Basically what happened was his dad had a super high prestige position.
Sure.
Like he was like the head of a department. And then he pulled his son in. And yeah. So I've seen that with so that's what I've seen in the home country. In America, I can tell you, so this is the thing that I've done myself and I've seen my parents do, which is we'll donate to either the school or some organization in order to either like smooth things over or speed things up.
Right.
So for like in my case, okay, so when I was graduating high school, right?
All right.
My parents made a sizable donation to not quite. They made a sizable donation, not to. It's complicated, but anyway, I graduated high school, and my parents made a sizable donation to the school, so to ensure that when the teachers were writing the reference letters, they wrote good reference letters.
Okay.
I think that's what it was.
Okay.
But it's good to maintain relationships with the school, and I ended up doing something later on in my career where I asked for a reference letter, and while I was asking, like a few months before I asked for that reference letter, I made a donation.
Right.
To one of the guy's projects. So I got my charitable contribution, and I mean, he was going to write a good reference letter anyways, but I basically like confirmed that.
I don't see that as an issue personally. There's nothing in there that's really stricken me as corrupt as far as. I mean, sure, they wrote. I mean, they did the charitable contribution for the reference letter. That doesn't really seem to be that big of an issue.
I don't know if there's a law against it, but I guess it would be kind of like affirmative action in the sense that some people are getting opportunities over others that have the same, intelligence and other factors that are important.
I guess you could look at it like that. I mean, but
that's the craziest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you also have that funny thing where people are buying, what's his face, Hunter Biden's like artwork for crazy sums of money.
Right.
And it's like, okay, I feel like that's a little bit different. Like, I feel like there's like a massive conflict of interest thing going on there.
Okay.
But you know,
that's one thing I
anyway.
definitely wanted to talk to you about is Hunter Biden. The reason why I want to bring him up is because this is a man
that has wealth, there's a lot of parts of him.
Wealth and power, but he's doing a lot of things. I mean, he's definitely
not any productive.
Yeah,
things.
he's doing some. I mean,
we have to split this up into a bunch of different things.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done any research aside from what I've heard through the grapevine.
Sure.
My understanding is that Hunter Biden is not he is not an individually driven individual, in the sense that he is not his own person.
Yeah.
Like, I went out of my way to not be in my father's shadow.
Right.
And so I can confidently say that my achievements are my own. He does not seem to have like gotten anywhere near that ability. So when we talk about how he acts, there's two parts of it. The first part is how he acts as a person, like individually,
right.
And the other part of it is what his family is doing in his name.
Right.
Because those are two. Like, I've also done a lot of stupid things. Like, I've like bought real estate, except it wasn't me buying real estate. It was my parents buying real estate, and they were just doing it in my name. And I have no idea what's going on. I'm just like, all right, just file my taxes properly, I guess.
Right.
Like, I have no idea what they're doing, and I don't care because it's not.
Right.
Like, yeah. So did you see what I'm saying? Where it's like,
right.
How much of it is Hunter Biden doing, and how much of it is like his family doing in his name?
Right. Well, there's another thing. I mean, obviously, when we talk about the wealthy, there was something I completely skipped over, and it's a very big topic. Well, how do we explain the Epstein mess? That's one of the biggest
I have
things.
No idea what's going on with that.
Because, I mean, there's so much information that this was definitely going on, that there was a madam, they were looking for young prepubescent girls, and they were definitely having these older men and women and everybody else, having sexual relations with these young girls.
Yeah. I cannot comment on that because I've never seen anything remotely close to that.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's fair.
I'm in the dark as much as you are.
All right. Because that's one thing that, when a lot of people think, rich, because, if somebody, I'm not going to defend pedophilia, but I'm saying if there was somebody that was actually a pedophile, and they were a poor pedophile, they would probably be thrown right in the sex registry, in jail, and the other. But because these are rich, wealthier people, Hollywood stars and things like that, even though we have allegations against these people, they have not served any time. They haven't gone to trial, and I mean, that's one other.
There's a bunch of different things going on.
Okay.
So I'm going to show you the different lens that I've seen.
Okay.
So me personally, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have access to money.
Yes.
Which means if I do something stupid, and the police want to arrest me, I'm going to hire. I'm basically going to throw a lot of money at a really good lawyer, and
right.
Lawyers that are paid lots and lots of money are obviously better than public defenders.
Yes, always.
So, I can confidently say that it's like, hey, I have the money to hire a proper lawyer, so I'm going to be able to get away with a lot more than someone who doesn't have that money would be able to.
Right.
That's part of it. The other part of it is, apparently, like when I go in front of the court, right, they're going to look at me and they're going to see that I have this history of being, I'm very high achievement professionally,
sure.
And I haven't committed any crimes before, and I'm generally a pretty upstanding person.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And so I've got that going for me as well. Right.
Right.
and to a certain extent, like having a college degree, or not a college, having a prestige degree or a prestige position would grant you a similar level of immunity to the law as being a woman.
Right. Right. Oh yeah, I agree.
Right. So there's that going on. So there's the ability to hire a lawyer. Mm-hmm. There's the overall perception that you're supposed to be a good person because you have a prestige position.
Right.
Right. Or a prestige occupation. And then now I haven't seen police be scared of rich people. And not at my level of wealth.
Okay.
At least in this country. I can definitely see in the home country a rich person intimidating the police that way.
Right.
But in America, I can say at my level of wealth, I wouldn't have the ability to intimidate the police. But what I would be able to do is hire a really good lawyer and be like, yeah, you're not going to throw me in jail. Because or if you do, like, it's going to be much easier for you to throw like 5 randos in jail than it is for you to throw me, one person, in jail.
Right.
So you might as well like get your money's worth.
Right. And I mean, I'll say this. There's a lot of people would say, oh, well, that's not fair. But at the same time, you know, first of all, 1, life is not fair. And 2, you worked for everything that you have. So because, you know, they say, oh, you may have a privilege. It's not necessarily a privilege. It's something that
I worked. I'm not sure. I mean, I could have also not worked and just be spending my parents' money.
Right.
I think I'm the exception. That I worked.
But even then, your father worked. I mean, that's what I'm saying is what you have. The thing, because I've got another friend of mine. He's also very well and with money as well. And I mean, he says it. He's like,
I don't think there's a point in trying to justify it. Mm-hmm. It's like rich people having advantages in court is like a woman having advantage in court. It's like, yeah, this is how your hand are dealt. You know, everyone's dealt a different hand. You play your hand the best way you can play it.
Right.
So I wouldn't feel like this is one of my things. So I'm gonna do this rant about money.
Okay.
Like people have this thing where they're like, you're rich, you didn't achieve your thing. Right? You grew up with wealth, you didn't achieve what you earned, right?
Right.
So let's say we have 2 people, right? We have one person who is born to an average wealth family, but he has like an IQ of like 160.
Right.
And we have another person with an average IQ, but inherited about, let's say, $1 million.
Okay.
Or comes from a super wealthy family. And both these people move forward to build multi-million-dollar companies.
Right.
Right? Who would we say had the bigger achievement? We usually say that the person who started with less money had the bigger achievement.
Right. Right.
But then if you think about it, it's like, what's the greater gift? Is the greater gift to be born with intelligence or to be born with inherited wealth?
Right.
Right? The greater gift is to be born with intelligence.
Right. Oh, yeah. Always.
So I'm like, I was born with, I was born with a super high IQ. Mm-hmm. I've got a crazy work ethic. I have my natural proclivities are in engineering, which is a high paying, good job security field.
Yep.
Right? I have a healthy body.
Yeah.
Right? All these things I would consider to be a greater gift than inherited wealth.
Right. Absolutely.
Like any one of these things is more valuable. And so I just think that they're like, oh, you didn't achieve it because you came from a wealthy family. It's like no, fuck you. Right. You didn't achieve it. You were born with like a fucking like 200 IQ.
Right. And you know, like I said, not just you, but my other friend that I was talking to yesterday, who's also, you know, his family has wealth as well. He was born into wealth, and he's like, look, you know, it's like people always give people, you know, you guys shit because you have money. Oh, you were born into wealth, but does that mean? I mean, that doesn't. That's the thing. I think that people, you know, everybody has to work for what they want. You know, just because whether you're born from wealth or whether you're not born for wealth, you still, you know, you still have a fucking purpose. I mean, sure.
You're dealt a certain set of cards, and you should play them
Right.
to the best of your ability.
Right.
And I will play. I would say I have less of a need for inherited wealth because I have my own wealth, but I would say I will play I will spend my parents' money shamelessly the same way that I will put myself in positions to take advantage of my ability to work 80-hour or 100-hour weeks without getting tired.
Now, I think it also depends on the personality, though. Because some people, like you decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead and build my own wealth. Sure, I have this, this money that I've got inherited, but I'm going to build my own wealth. Where there might be some other person that's like, oh, well, I don't have to work. Say, like a woman, I don't have to work. Hey, there's a lot of cases where there are these rich billionaire daughters, and they don't want to work. They don't.
Subject you come.
That's
like a woman.
But I'm not wrong. That's what I'm saying. I'm not wrong. And it's actually more common with women than it is with men.
Well.
So they're like, oh, well, I don't have to work. So they never do anything.
I can't speak to that because I've never. I mean, my point in all this was that at one point in time I felt ashamed for using my parents' wealth, and now I'm just like, nah.
Right.
Do it.
Right.
I don't feel ashamed of my intelligence. I don't feel ashamed of my work ethic. I'm not going to feel ashamed of my inherited wealth.
Right.
But going to your point, these people that all they do is they rely on inherited wealth. I mean, that's their choice.
Right.
I mean, it has its consequences.
Right.
Specifically, that if you don't maintain the ability to generate wealth in your generation, you're okay. So there's a saying where you have 3 generations, and wealth is always destroyed at 3 generations because you have one generation that earns it.
Right.
The next generation learned and they maintained the work ethic.
Right.
Right. Or the next generation isn't as hardworking as the first generation, but since they grew up with the first generation, they're not being idiots.
Right.
But then the third generation, because they're not exposed to the second generation isn't hardworking. The third generation just screws it up.
Right.
And I think in my case, because I have my own achievements, I'm going to be able to defer that decline by at least 1 generation.
Right. And you also have, maybe it is the 3rd generation that we're mainly talking about, the Zoomer generation here in this instance, where you see a lot of these people look down on people that don't have wealth. You do see that, and that is an unfortunate thing. I mean, it's always happened. There's always been a few rich people that are kind of snobby, and they've looked down on people that the have-nots rather.
I've seen it,
but
I can't speak to it. I mean, take solace in the fact that they're going to probably blow through their money sometime in their life, and then they're going to be screwed, and their kids are going to be normal.
Right.
I mean,
yeah. That's a good way of looking. at it. That's a good way of looking at it. I
mean, you could be arrogant, but being arrogant like that costs you your generational wealth.
Right. Right.
So.
Yeah, I mean, people just really
don't. I'm not sure how to.
People don't really seem to understand money, especially in this day and age. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a really weird generation that we've got here. I just, I've never seen so many people interested in clout, as we call it, clout. Oh, look how rich I am. Look at my fancy car. Look at I just bought a house, I mean, it's okay. Again, if they want to do that, that's fine. But to me, I'm just like, who are you other than your money? It's like, is that all you have to show is just the things that you can buy?
If they don't have anything else, then I mean, to go into the effect of clout, it's like I have this similar thing where I have clout not through my money, but when there's an engineering project, right, and I open my mouth, people respect me.
Right, but that's a little different because you have experience. I'm not talking about, I bought a house.
That is a point. But it has I feel like it would have a similar effect. I feel like even if they don't have the technical ability that I do, they can kind of
Right.
emulate
Right.
my clout by spending money, I guess.
Oof. But see, at the same time, I wouldn't think that a robotics, say Tesla or some, some company like that, I don't think they would hire just somebody that has inherited wealth over somebody that actually has the know-how and the skill to do the job that they want done.
No, you wouldn't get the work, but I don't know. I've seen do rich people. There is. I feel like I'm starting to see that, in the sense that It's not necessarily that. There's something that I don't particularly like, which is that what's going on is there are people that have college degrees, and at least in the field that I am, there's still a college degree is basically an idiot filter. It's unfortunately a college degree is an idiot filter in the sense that, if I'm hiring people, right? I've attempted to hire people. I've hired people from prestige colleges.
Sure.
And they're not the best people, but the prestige, there is a certain guarantee that they have a certain level of intelligence.
Sure.
Whereas if I tried to hire, because I've been trying to do this in the sense that I've been trying to hire, engineers I've been trying to hire people who don't have engineering degrees as engineers and train them up. But and obviously that's that's a very, I would say, I don't want to call it progressive, but there's our type of people, we have this thing where we're trying to push people to not go to college and to get jobs, engineering jobs, without having an engineering degree, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to do that, and by hiring people who don't have engineering degrees from prestigious colleges, and I am reminded of what the average IQ is.
Right. What is the average IQ, by the way?
It's 100.
Okay.
But the people I hang out with aren't that. And most of the people I hang out with, every once in a while you have people who don't have college degrees, but most of the people I hang out with have college degrees, and they have high IQs. Mm-hmm. And it's a 4-year-long IQ test.
Okay.
It's an IQ test that takes 4 years and costs a few $100,000.
Yeah. So, I mean, what do you think about the whole college degree? I mean, should somebody bust their ass to get a college degree? Is that something that's really necessary, or is it the trade?
I don't know. TFL? I can tell you, a college degree is beneficial than not having a college degree.
Right.
All else held equal, I don't know if it's worth 4 years of your life and the indoctrination and the in my case, I have money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go into how I bought my college degree.
Okay.
I was doing research. When you do research, right, or when you do engineering work in general, right?
Yeah.
You can, if you're doing high prestige stuff, you can do that work and get paid for it, or you can do that work for a university and do that work as basically grad research, and then instead of paying you with what you're worth, they pay you with a piece of paper that says you have a college degree now, right, and such and such, and in such and such robotics engineering, master's degree,
sure,
right, and I'm able to make that decision fairly easily because I have money. So the fact that I am spending money to get a piece of paper instead of just working to earn more money and not have that piece of paper, the money means nothing to me.
Sure.
And so that piece of paper gives me more options in the sense that it allows me to convince stupid people that I'm smart.
Right.
And unfortunately, that is a benefit.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Being able to convince stupid people that you're smart with a piece of paper is beneficial for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree 100%.
And so, that's what I've done. Mm-hmm. I did work. I could have so I can see someone else doing the exact same work that I did, gaining the exact same experience that I did, but instead of working towards a college degree, they just got paid.
Right.
And they were earning 6 figures while I was spending 6 figures. And at the end of the day, I have a piece of paper and they have a lot more money.
Right.
Right. But then I also started with a lot more money. So it's whatever.
Right. So, I mean, there is one other thing.
Like, I would say that having a college degree does not necessarily mean you're smarter than someone who just worked and earned money.
Right.
But that was the move that I played.
Right.
Because it was an easy move for me to make. But I can see if you have a limited amount of money, how making that same move would be a lot more difficult. Mm-hmm. And perhaps even unadvisory.
So, there is one thing I do, since we've done so many of these interviews, there is one thing I do kind of want to put a cap on with all this. And, mainly when we did these interviews, we were trying to help guys that were going their own way and were going away from relationships to find something that can help them to achieve success, especially in the financial world, because a lot of guys, especially with the inflation, they're not doing real well, and they're trying to find something that can hone their skills and make them, more, successful men. And I've been looking at a lot of the stuff on YouTube, and most of the manosphere related stuff is like, this is how to get a woman, this is how to attract all kinds of women. And basically, you being a man that has built your company and your business with all with the money, do you think that these guys are better off, ignoring all that stuff for now when they're young, ignoring all that kind of stuff and focusing on money and, building their, whatever dream they have, whatever kind of goal they have? Do you think that's more beneficial to them than to be going after different partners, whether they're, straight or gay or whatever? Do you think that's actually going to be better for them to just kind of focus on, that kind of success?
I mean, it depends what you want.
Right.
Right. I would say that, so in my personal case, I have several goals. I do intend on having children.
Okay.
Probably through surrogacy.
Okay.
And so the reason why I work hard is to basically number one, gain the ability to bring in money should anything happen to my parents.
Right.
And to fund that endeavor.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why I personally am accumulating money and power. And also it means that when my kids are growing up, I will be able to be this great role model.
Okay.
So that's my drive.
Okay.
Right. Okay. But I can see if you don't have plan on having kids and you want to collect like anime figurines.
Yeah.
I can also see me in another world, basically getting a bunch of giant 3D printers and 3D printing all these giant anime figurines.
Yeah.
Because, that's also something I might be doing.
That's cool.
If I didn't plan on having kids. In regards to trying to date, right. Obviously, like if you're trying to have kids, like if you're trying to, like, obviously it's stupid as hell to try to get married in a Western country and have kids.
Right.
In a Western country because they're not your kids.
Right.
So if you're planning on having kids, then you should be making moves to move towards a more traditional country, or maybe just like convert to Amish or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be like, that's what you should be doing. And so, like, you shouldn't judge yourself based on pursuing money and power. You should judge yourself based on trying to pursue the particular goals that you set yourself. So if your goal is to have kids, then you need to, like, having more money, is not necessarily going to bring you towards that goal. You need to measure your success by, am I in a traditional society in which my parental rights will be respected, right?
Right.
So step one is to move to that kind of environment in which you can have kids. Or, like, if you want to have them surrogacy, then in that case, it's important to accumulate wealth.
Yeah.
In order to fund that endeavor.
Yeah.
So you should judge yourself based, right? If you don't have a plan of having kids, if your life's goal is to like collect Hatsune Miku figurines, then it's like, how many Hatsune Miku figurines do you have in your room?
Right.
So it depends on what your goal is. Me personally, I found.
I was gonna say the answer is one. By the way, I actually do have one Hatsune Miku figurine.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, it's like I still do have a sex drive.
Mm-hmm.
So, to a certain extent, I have dealt with that in two ways. The first way is I have been sexually active.
Sure.
In the form that like you want to enjoy life.
Yeah.
And me being gay, that has been means that I can date relatively safely.
Right, absolutely.
And so I have that option open. But more recently, I've been more focused on my career because, like, me dating does not get me closer to kids.
Right.
So, but at the same time, I also, so what I've done is I have a doll.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, my doll has a weird fucking gender, but anyway.
No, that's interesting. So your
it's
doll.
It's a female doll.
Okay.
I needed to install the SRP, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so I cuddle up to her at night.
Right.
And then, you know, that serves and I've found recently that it is very good for my mental health if when I wake up in the morning, I carry her to the chair next to my desk.
Oh, wow.
And so, like, I have a couch next to my chair. And so I carry her to that chair. And then while I'm working, she's next to me. And then when I go to sleep, I carry her back.
Wow.
Right. So I found that has that has allowed me to focus on working.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's kind of fascinating. And of course, you know, I've been looking at there's a channel on YouTube called Pro Robots, and of course they talk about all the I'm sure you've heard of it, but they talk about all the new robot innovations, and they were talking about all the humanoid robots that they've been working on, and the ones that are coming out from EXDoll. I mean, wow. I'm just amazed at how realistic they're getting them. They're almost like an anime look. And I'm like, that's what I want right there. There's a red robot that they're working on. And I saw that thing actually moving around. You know, when it was first being conceived, they'd show like just small frames or images. But now they've actually got her eyes moving and everything. I'm like, I want that. That's what I want before I die, you know. Because, you know, I'm about to hit 40, and I don't know how much longer I've got. You know, some guys live till, some guys live to 60, some guys live to 80, some guys live to 100. I don't know which one I'm going to hit. So I would like to at least hopefully have something like that before I go, you know. Just something like that, you know. And that would make me happy.
I am looking into, it's weird, so I am looking into building my own robotic dolls in the West.
Yeah.
Like basically, we were doing that whole open source 3D printed doll design idea, and I've made some movement on it, but it's weird because it doesn't move me closer to having a kid. So
oh yeah,
I'm doing it as kind of like for fun, but. I don't know. I felt that like having a doll just next to me is good enough for me.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, see, one thing about the whole, I get this with a lot of traditional people. They always get upset about, oh, well, you know, you're not moving you're not spreading your seed. You're not spreading your seed. Your lineage will die. I actually had an Asian woman ask me that. She said, well, you don't want your lineage to die with you, do you? And I'm like, you know, I don't wake up and think about things like that. Like, I don't know about you, but I've never been one that's been like, oh man, like my whole lineage will die if I don't have kids. And I mean, again, I understand, if somebody would want to have kids in your case where you want to kind of, teach them what you know. And of course, they'll have that inheritance that they'll have to, maintain and things like that. You'll teach them how to basically respect that inheritance rather than, something of that nature. But me, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think it's something that I'm really that interested in, but I absolutely understand. And of course, these traditional type people, they'll say they're based and all kinds of things. But, what they want is they want every man to basically spread his seed. They're like, oh, this anime and all this other stuff, these dolls and robots, these won't spread your seed. You're doing a horrible job of being a man. I constantly get this stuff.
Maybe some women are being a horrible
Yeah,
woman.
that's true, but
And
that's
some
true.
others are being horrible, their version of themselves.
And
Yeah,
I
not really.
go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's everybody. It's for themselves to decide
Yeah.
what they want to do. In terms of these people that are like, there is a certain. I guess maybe they just don't understand what it's like to not. I mean, in my case, I'm not trying to like progress my lineage. It's more like the way I see it. It's like you're put in this world, you want to do stuff, and then the thing that I mean, I've done this thing where it's like every goal I've had, I've achieved.
Right.
Like I first thought my goal, the reason why I was here is because I I was going to advance a certain technology.
Sure.
So I would, build my skills and then get a position in a relevant company and advance that technology. And I've done that with pretty much every single technology I've wanted to advance. I have played a substantial role in. And so now I'm just like, I want to do something fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, raising kids seems like, I mean, obviously not like fun, but it seems like it would be a rewarding experience.
Okay. I mean, look, I have absolutely no issue with people that, want to have kids. And I mean, there's still people out there that want to try to do the marriage thing. I know a lot of people that are still getting married and engaged and everything. It's still happening. And I mean, if people
If you want a kid, you should make sure they're your kids.
Right.
And that's not just yours genetically. It means that like if she feels unhappy, are they still your kids? If she feels unhappy, and then they're going to get taken away from you.
Absolutely.
So if you have kids, you make sure they're yours.
Absolutely,
and,
I understand.
Make sure you can keep them.
Yep.
Right.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Think be a little more
Don't just
patient before you.
Because there are people that are like, oh yeah, just spread your seed, and it's like, I don't want to spread my seed. I want to raise a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Right, because it's like if you get divorced, right, you spread your seed. Congrats.
Well, one of the trads said, well, it doesn't count if you're just having a bunch of baby mamas. Like, that doesn't count. They were trying to say, like, but you got to understand, the trads are all about family. They're like, if their men and women aren't having families, then it doesn't matter. That's just their... Remember, TFM says the traditionalists are the absolutists. Their main goal is stability. So that's what they mainly want. They want a stable society. In order to have a stable society, you've got to have families. So that's what they're going to push for all the time. But all right, so I have a question. Lorgar actually asks, I wonder what he thinks, I wonder what you think about the future of dolls and waifus through the coming economic crisis.
Inflation. I'm not sure. I mean, I don't really. I mean, there's how I think dolls will progress overall. Regarding economic crises, I mean, I'm fairly skilled in economics.
Right.
But I feel like that'd be more of a TFM question.
Okay.
Like, would people, like, obviously a doll is cheaper than a girlfriend.
Yeah. Yeah. Over time, yes.
But the problem with a doll is a large one-time expense.
Right.
whereas a girlfriend is distributed.
Yeah.
And a girlfriend costs more time, whereas a doll costs, a large upfront payment.
Yeah.
And most people, they don't have that same, they don't have that same conversion of time to money
Right.
that I do.
Right.
And they also don't have a liquid fund. Like most people live paycheck to paycheck. And so they would never be able to accumulate the funds to make that one-time payment.
Well, I
And
did
so they would
that.
just go paycheck to paycheck
I
by
I did that
like
by
hiring hookers.
working impressive amounts of overtime. But basically, I mean, I even skipped a few meals. I just did what I needed to do. But what you can do
It
now
sounds like it
though.
paid off.
Hmm. Oh, I paid it in one. I paid it in one full payment. I just straight up took the two
Yeah, but no,
thousand and paid it.
I'm saying it sounds like the sacrifice was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it. But I will say that now we have a lot of down payment things. One of my viewers or listeners, he's done about 750 on one, and of course, what he's told me is Phil just holds his money until he's ready, and I'm like, oh, that's perfect. If that's the way they want to do it with a payment plan, I don't think a payment plan's hurting anyone. I think it's a perfect idea for those that don't have that much money, and it is a good
Wait,
option.
is that a loan, or is that more like he gives the money to Phil in order to prevent himself from spending it because he doesn't have the self-control to not spend it if it's in his possession?
I don't, I'm not sure. I really don't know on that one because I mean he
Or is
runs
he in debt to Phil in the sense that he already has a doll,
he
and if he doesn't pay Phil, Phil's going to come after him with a lawyer?
maybe. I don't know about that one. All I know is he runs a he basically runs a
Classy
and
establishment.
no, he runs an auction booth. He sells anime and stuff, related figurines and things like that. And I guess he's constantly buying to fill, for his stock. He's got all kinds of things that he has to buy from AliExpress and all these other websites to sell at his auction booth, which is all anime and tokusatsu stuff. So, I mean, he does pretty decent. And I mean, I don't know. But that's what he says he wants. He's got 750 on it, and maybe he's just going to keep on throwing it in there, and he'll eventually have a doll. And I think the payment plan is good for some
Uh,
people because, again, yeah, people do need to hold on to their money, but one thing, I will say for someone that doesn't have a whole lot of money, you never know when there's going to be this unexpected expense. And
I would say uh, if you okay, so there's a part of there's a part that I would I'm going to answer not the question that was asked, but I'm going to answer another question,
okay.
which is where I would like to see the dolls to go.
Okay.
Particularly in an economic downturn when people don't have quite that much money.
Right.
Um, and so I want to see the modular dolls where you can buy a doll piece by piece.
Yeah.
And you'll start off with just a head,
Yeah.
and then you'll have a head attached to a torso, right? And then you'll attach the arms, and then you'll attach the legs, and then you'll add an SRP, and then buy her clothes, right? The problem right now is the doll is just one giant expense,
Right.
and you can't buy the doll piece by piece.
Yeah. Well, see, and I'll back
Right.
that up because I bought my computer that way. Instead of buying a whole computer, I bought part by part by part, and of course, it took some trial and error, as with everything. But I watched some
Right.
YouTube tutorials. I really studied it, and I've built the rig that I'm using right now, and I'm very proud of it. Like it's an achievement. It's like wow, I bought and built my own computer, and I know how to fix it. I know what if something breaks down. I know how to repair it because I put it together. I have those skills. So I would love to see an era where you could just buy the doll piece by piece.
I would say I'm going to explain what I am trying to do.
Okay.
And this is something anyone can do. I'm trying to do it myself first so I can give better instructions to other people. But if you want to do this if you want to be the spearhead and not me, I encourage you. I am trying to fabricate a doll out of ball jointed doll designs.
Oh, wow.
So there are designs of ball jointed dolls that you can buy, and it's not you don't buy the actual doll itself. You buy the 3D model.
Sure.
And you can throw those in a 3D printer and print out the doll. And they're designed to be usually 30 centimeters tall, or maybe 60 centimeters tall. Or they call them 1/3 dolls. Basically, it's 1/3 the size of a human. And I think we mentioned in the last time we talked, to make a doll it's like a cube, I think. So to make a doll, twice as large, it will actually, or to make a doll, to take this 1/3 doll, right? All right. So what you do, if you want a doll, but you cannot afford a doll, but you want to start making moves to get a doll, what I recommend is this. You buy yourself a Creality Ender 3, ideally with auto leveling. A Creality Ender 3 is like $189 on Amazon. The auto leveler will bring that to maybe like 230 or something. I recommend beginners should have auto levelers on their 3D printer. So you buy a 3D printer. This is an entry-level 3D printer, and it can print. What's going to happen is you'll learn to just 3D print, and you'll 3D print a bunch of useless, fun trinkets or whatever, and you'll have an interesting skill, which is the 3D print. But what I would do is I would take that printer. Now, the printer doesn't cost very much to run. Like, filament is about $20 per kilogram, but you use up filament very, very slowly. The problem with 3D printers is they take a long fucking time to print anything. We're talking like an entire day.
Wow.
I've used these 3D printers to print gun parts, and I think the biggest part of the gun that I print, it takes, I think, something like 48 hours.
Wow.
To fully print. So it takes a long time. But if you have more time than you do money,
right?
Buy a 3D printer, learn to use it by printing some random stupid things, and then you want to print a 1/3 size ball joint doll, and you will have basically a ball joint doll that is 1/3 the size of a human. And it's still kind of cute. It's fun to play with.
Sure.
But there's a lot of filament in that, in the sense that it will take you at least, I think, on a Creality Ender 3, it would take you probably 3 separate prints to print the whole thing, and each print would be 12 hours.
Okay.
So I would say maybe like 3 days. Basically, you run the print once a day, and then assuming no build failures, which is actually kind of a thing, you should have all the parts to create a ball jointed doll 1/3 size after about 3 days. And this is a doll that is 60 centimeters tall. Okay. I think they sell some TPE silicone sex dolls that are 100 centimeters tall. I think there's 80 centimeter tall dolls, TPE dolls. So this is a doll this doll's it's gonna be hard, obviously. The joints will kind of be weird, but it will be a doll. And it will be 60 centimeters. And I don't think you're gonna be able to cuddle with it, but it will give you a taste of 3D printing. It will give you a taste of the doll. And if you decide you like that, you should take that same doll, you should scale it up by 3, and you should print a full-size ball joint doll.
Yeah, see, that's what I was
using the Creality Ender 3. And that will take you fucking forever.
I know, but it's worth it. It's worth it, though.
And I'm going to tell you what it's going to take, right? So to print a ball joint doll normally at 1/3 size, that would take maybe, 3 days.
Okay.
Right? It'd take maybe I'd say 24 hours to print everything. If assuming you have a nicely tuned printer, assuming if you have a shitty printer, it might take you a bit longer. It will take 48 hours to print the full ball joint doll of 48 hours of printing time. But the thing is, if you scale that doll up 3 times, everything becomes 27 times bigger, right? So if it becomes 3 times taller, it also becomes 3 times wider and 3 times wider in the other direction. So 3 times 3 times 3 makes 27. So if it took you 2 days to print a 1/3 size doll, it would take you a month?
Wow.
It's 27. It would take you 2 months to print a full size doll.
My God.
And it would cost you maybe about $100 in filament. The 3D printer is like $200 by itself. So we'll assume like after all this stuff, you've gone through maybe like $200 in filament. So about $200 3D printer, $200 filament. And over the course of 2 months, you can print yourself a life-size ball joint doll. And it'll be posable. You can cuddle with it. It'll be hard.
Oh, yeah.
You won't be able to fuck it. But you can dress it up and you know.
Well, I mean, there's
draw anime eyes, and
there's always a way, you could put something inside of it.
Yeah, you would start with just a head, right? You'd print the head first, and then you'd have like a head, and then you'd print the torso, and then you'd have a torso. You'd have like a head and boobs, and then you'd print the abdomen.
Wow.
And the pelvic area, and then you'd have like a torso doll, and then you'll print the limbs one by one, and eventually you'll have the full doll.
Wow.
Right?
Well, see, how would that work on
and so if you have more time,
how would that
if
work?
you have a lot of time and not much money, that's how you would do it.
Now, how would this work on an industrial scale? I was just trying to figure out, like, if you had an industrial scale and you were going to sell these, like, say you were going to make a whole bunch of 3D printed and you were going to do a business, like, this is a brand new doll business. What kind of...
This does not work as a business.
Oh, you don't think it would?
You'd have to have...
I don't think it would. Okay, the question is, how much would you buy a full-size doll for?
Right.
Yeah. And... I can tell you that the cost of a full-size doll, if you were to pay someone else to 3D print a full-size ball joint doll, a life-size ball joint doll, it would cost you probably like about $1,000 or $2,000. That's about as much as a silicone doll.
It's about as much
now,
as a regular.
You would be able to get it piece by piece, but I'm not sure if that's like such a this is not if you have money. If you have money, just buy a doll. But if you don't have money, you want to buy a 3D printer and then print it yourself piece by piece.
Well,
and so that way, instead of paying like $2,000 to pay for someone else to print it on their printer, you pay $200 in material expense and then spend a lot of time. And I think that since it's a doll and you put the time into making the doll because of this, I don't want to call it sweat equity, but because of this like effort that you put in, I think you'll love the doll more.
But what I was saying, though, to print the entire doll, but you were talking about customization. So, say the difference, though, when you buy the doll that you get from Phil or whatever, you usually get that basic model. You can design it, you can put the skin and everything else on it, sure. But if we're talking about a life-size ball joint doll, then you have the ability to G.I. Joe, like literally take the arms of one and put it on the other, and there's all sorts of things like that. So there's a whole customization factor that you don't have. And I'm not saying that you would sell the dolls themselves. You would sell the parts. You could sell the individual parts of the doll that people would want to buy. And people could literally Lego mix and match their dolls. And I can tell you that would happen because I know how people are.
I think that maybe. I guess you could have a doll with different sized boobs, but other than that, that's the only thing you can really vary. Again, a thicker doll. But if you make it with a thicker doll, you have to make all the limbs thicker to make the proportions line up.
Oh, well, that's true.
I don't think... This 3D printing doll thing, 3D print, paying someone else to 3D print stuff it's definitely cheaper than it used to be.
Yeah.
But it's still, I think if you're going out of your way to make something as big as a life-size ball joint doll, you want to use your own 3D printer for that.
Oh, yeah.
Like I've got myself a pretty premium printer because of how much stuff I'm going through. But so yeah, if you're printing a life-size doll, like the idea is if you have money, just buy a doll.
Oh yeah.
And so in terms of customization.
But see, that's what I'm worried about, customization. Yeah.
In terms of customization, let's say you have your own printer, because don't pay someone else to print like giant fucking like doll parts for you.
Right.
The other thing is it's got to go through the shipping system, right? Like these things are a pain in the ass to ship because they're huge.
Yeah.
I
didn't think about that.
Definitely do print it yourself.
Right.
In terms of customization, unfortunately, there's not that much opportunity to customize. You can get different dolls to a certain extent. Yeah, so that's one of the advantages of doing the 1/3 size doll. Because if you get two different dolls, you want to print it at 1/3 size first to make sure the parts match up in the 1/3 size before going straight to the life size doll.
Yeah, yeah.
I am, but yeah, you can mix and match different models, but you definitely try it out at the 1/3 size to make sure it fits.
Okay.
Before you YOLO the full size one.
All right, I'm gonna see if there's any. I'm basically gonna see if there's any questions, anything like that in our area. I don't know.
I think with the ball joint doll, if you cover her up with clothing, it does add a little bit of softness to it.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I have to admit, I do like the. I'd like, honestly, I know this is a really hard shoot, but I would like if there was a doll that had a different temperature that wasn't quite so, cold to the touch, especially since we've had a dip in temperature. So, when it's cold outside, usually what the temperature determines what the doll.
Do you have a TPE doll or a silicone doll?
I have a TPE.
Oh, yeah, you're fucked. If you had a silicone doll, I would tell you to buy a heated blanket and wrap it around her.
Oh, well, but it won't work if I have a TPE. Why, it'll melt it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know
that. I melted my doll's arm.
Oh.
So I made her a prosthetic. It's a very nice prosthetic.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
As I say, and I do like her more because of it. Makes her more unique. But I can see how with someone without my skills would not have been able to make that prosthetic. I should make this a service, Revy's doll prosthetics.
There you go.
You fuck up your doll. I'm actually working on a prosthetic right now. Have you you know Ken Coley, Kantai Collection? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, faintly. I know a few of those characters.
So if you go on Google, and you search up Harbor Princess, go on Google and search up Harbor Princess. It's a super pretty ship. She's thick, and she's got these giant claw hands.
Okay.
And I'm trying to make one of those, and equip my doll with a giant claw hand.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I'm planning on making it massive. I think what I figured out is that my hypothesis is that if you want a doll that's bigger than you, right?
Yeah.
Because if you want like a mommy doll or a doll that's bigger than you, you can achieve a similar effect by giving her big hands.
That is really cool. Well, see, there is actually a market for that. There's a lot of people that have damaged dolls that would love to buy prosthetic parts for them. So that's definitely something that's needed. My doll, her elbow is torn. I don't know why. Maybe it's just years of putting her elbow in a certain position. Maybe it just finally tore the TPE. And I've bought some solvent, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I've just been waiting on that before I'm going to go ahead and apply. But, I mean, if I'd have to get her a prosthetic, I'd have to, I'd be okay with that. Just because they're not...
So the thing is, doll prosthetics are different from human prosthetics. In the sense that, so the way a doll prosthetic would work, and this is something that only an engineer can do. Or no, I want to say an engineer. Someone who has experience designing 3D printed parts.
Right.
The way the prosthetic works with my doll is I literally cut off the TPE flesh and expose the skeleton.
Yeah, you have to.
And, I took off the joint. I took off her hand joints. And so all that's left is her forearm joint. And the prosthetic bolts onto her skeleton.
Yeah. I mean, it has to. There's no other way you can do it.
You can't do it with a human, right?
Yeah.
Because as a human, you can't do that.
No.
So it's one of the convenient things when making doll prosthetics. Like you have a skeleton, you could just bolt directly to the skeleton.
Yeah, and I mean, if you go to
the skeleton is assembled.
And if you go to like the doll forum, you'll see all kinds of, people just digging into their dolls and customizing them and doing things like that where they are, where they have a broken doll and they are going in there and doing the surgery, just like TFM did with his, where Celestina has those scars, which he worked to remove, or he just kind of considers like something that makes the doll unique. People will go in there and actually try to fix these things, which is really interesting. It shows how much people get attached to the dolls. It's one thing that people don't understand on the other side, because I have talked to these trads and these PUAs, and they just don't get it. They say, and I mean, I kind of want your opinion on this, but they say the fact that you have a doll means that you're coping because you would rather have a real woman. And to that, I have to boldly disagree. Now, I don't know what you think about that, but that's what I was basically posited a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't think I would want an actual woman. I think I'm fine with my doll or an assistant or a robot or something like that. I don't. That's me personally.
I would rather have like a live anime girl, but those don't exist.
Right.
The only that exist are
Oh yeah.
meatbag girls, and I don't like meatbag girls. So I have a doll.
Right. Absolutely. And that's how I feel.
Yeah, the doll is totally a compromise. The doll is a compromise for an anime waifu.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. And I tried to explain that the anime waifu, now I've made videos about this, but it's an idealization of what men want women to be. That's why guys go so crazy over these characters, because they're innocent, they're cute, they act rather submissive at times. They're just what guys want in women, and they're not getting that. I don't know if we can say that never happened, but right now in the current society, that's certainly nothing. That's certainly something that's not happening. So guys are definitely compromising with the waifus. I don't like the idea of calling it a cope. I consider it, more of a compromise. It's like this is
a doll is a compromise for an anime waifu, not a compromise for a meatbag waifu.
Right. Okay.
Like, because meatbag waifus don't exist.
Right. Yeah. I got you.
So,
Completely understand.
I am coping with my inability to bring anime girls away.
Yeah. I gotcha, man. I completely understand that, because there's so many guys out there that are just into this waifu thing, and they don't get it. Like other people, I've read. There was a guy that actually did a full dig on me. I haven't released the video yet, but he basically went onto my social media profile and he started digging into me, and he's like, just in his mind though, he believes that the reason a man and woman are put on the earth is to have a romantic relationship. So he sees a guy that has a doll or has something else, and he's like, well, this isn't right.
It's not a romantic relationship. You're put on this world to have kids. I guess, I mean, I want to say it's purpose, but I'll say that, that's kind of why you're here.
Right.
Kids.
I mean, I do agree with him on that.
I understand that part. So he should be more consistent and be specifically like, you have to have kids. It's not just about like having a man and a woman in a romantic relationship is basically zero if they don't have kids.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
Absolutely. I mean, and he doesn't have any kids or anything like that either. He's just literally going through. He's doing the smash and dash.
And if he's like saying, "Oh yeah, you can't get an actual girl," I'm I've got like a Chad. Like I'm a femboy, right? So I'm like, but the thing is, I'm also kind of a Chad. Like I'm like a weirdly feminine Chad.
Right.
And I have everything. Like it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I got nothing to get. Yeah. It's nothing. Yeah, but see, they don't get that. There's a lot of guys out there that are Chads that don't behave like they think. Like you're, more feminine. And I guess there's even a guy in Drexel's server. He's gay. He's a bodybuilder, and he talks about all this anime stuff all the time. He's got an Asian boyfriend that he has been. No, they've been married. I'm sorry, they've been married for 2 years, and he's just very. He's a cool guy. I mean, he'll tell you how to lift and what exercises to do, what to eat. He's all very much into physical fitness and health. And but again, he doesn't act like these other. It's just, I don't know. I think that what people expect and what people actually are two different things. You see these people that are more traditional minded and they think everything is in that worldview. But then people like myself come along, or people like you come along, you have completely different a worldview, and they can't grasp onto it. And I think that's the real fight that we're having right now. Not just in this country, but in the world at large. Because there's so many people that say, oh, well, you can't have a doll. You can't have this. You should be doing this. You should be doing that. I have never seen a society where people are more interested in people that and other people than themselves. They want to tell other people what to do instead of focusing on what they should do with their own life. I mean, that's just
Okay. I mean, I kind of just ignore them.
right,
You know,
right. Yeah, and then
I
that's
flaunt
probably
my,
the best thing to do.
I flaunt my Estofa decorations in
Hmm.
front of them, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah, and social media is just a
And then
big
they fuck
time
up.
kill. I mean, social media is just a big time kill anyway. It's ridiculous. I don't even know why I fool with it sometimes. But all right, it's been a great.
I feel like if you're thinking about people telling you that you shouldn't own a doll, I feel like you're putting a bit too much weight on what other people think you should do. I mean,
Absolutely, yeah, I think so too. I think if you're gonna get a doll, obviously do the research. And if you think that's the right decision for you, fuck what everybody else says. Get the doll, and then, if you like it, you do, and if you don't, you don't. TFM said there's a few guys that returned the dolls. They said it just wasn't for them. But there's a lot of guys that got dolls, and that's the best thing in the world for them. And I think really we have to kind of accept that. Like when I did that video about the guy that married Hatsune Miku, that's what worked for him. And there's so many comments from people all around the world that said, "Oh, he's got a mental issues. He's got problems. He should be with a real woman." And he's just said, we need to learn to accept all kinds of love and all kinds of relationships. Because, I mean, eventually he said it could be AI. Eventually it could be, augmented reality. There's so many different things that people may end up in relationships with over the next couple of years.
I think his response is, "I'm with my waifu. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't give a shit what other people think about me."
Absolutely.
Right? Like, if you have what you want, like the only reason you care about other people's opinion
Mm-hmm.
is because you want something from them.
Right.
But he has what he wants, so.
Right. Right. I think a lot of people want to be accepted by everyone, and you got to realize that not everybody is going to accept you. Just like people that'll go places they don't have any business on the internet start trouble, and then and then the people that don't like them, they harass them, they send them horrible death threats and things, and they wonder why. It's like, well, you're really not supposed to go mess with those people anyway. I mean, there's certain people that will not agree with your decisions, and the best thing to do is to, like you said, ignore them. Going your own way means not focusing on other people's opinion. It's self-actualization for yourself, finding what you like to do, completing,
No, it was a bit more specific than that. It's you care about other people's opinion because they have something that you want, right? Like maybe, like that's usually the reason why you care about other people's opinion.
right.
Like if you think about it deep down,
Now,
right?
now for me, well, I was just saying, for me,
But if you have what you want, then it doesn't really matter what people think of you.
right.
The only thing that matters is that if they are in a position in which they can take it away, then that's a problem.
Right. Yes.
But if they're
That's what
not
I
in a
agree
position
with.
to get it away, and you're happy and you're with your waifu,
Yeah.
then there's no reason to care what other people think
Now,
because you have what you want.
now for me,
You don't need anything from anyone else.
the only thing I'll say here is the only reason I care about people's opinions, or I don't care about them. I'm just curious. because I've always been like, I was an album reviewer, record reviewer. So what I started out doing is reading other people's opinions on music, right? So I'm also curious in other people's opinions on different topics. Like I will read comment sections and just see what people think of different things, and you know, it's always just more of a curiosity to me. I mean, nobody's gonna change my opinion. But at the same time, I'm curious, why doesn't this person like this or why doesn't this person like that? And sometimes you find out that some people are ill informed, like they don't understand what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. Either they don't have the information or they think they have the information and they're just completely off base. You get that quite a bit. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's always
So
interesting to
sometimes they
me.
have an interesting perspective,
Mm-hmm.
and then and then there's an interesting perspective. But then sometimes I found that a lot of them, especially if it's like political or social or something like that,
Right.
a lot of the time they're just an NPC,
Yeah. Yeah.
and there's no point. Just they're an NPC. It's like, why are you thinking about this?
Right, right. Yeah, you're right. There are way too many NPCs out there, but there's NPCs like in the trad community to try to act based. Oh, I'm based. I'm a no.
Most people are NPCs.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
assume people are assume that people are NPCs unless they demonstrate otherwise.
Right, right. I mean, but everybody has their own
So,
personal agenda, and that's gonna rule over
right?
everything.
You walk outside and you look around and you see everyone and you're like NPC, NPC, NPC.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like a role playing game. All right. Well, thanks for being on. Maybe a little bit longer than, but hey, it's good. I think it's been a good conversation.
It's fun.
I thank you for the previous videos we
I think this
did.
was more fun than informative, but
Oh,
whatever.
oh yeah, yeah. But there's nothing wrong with having a little fun and discussing the topics that people are kind of curious about. And we'll have you on again if there's anything else you need to talk about. And this will be the Grim Lord. And oh yeah, hold on. Let people know where they can find you.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm on spinningrobotpussy.com if you want to buy any of my stuff, or you can buy it from DC Dollhouse. I forgot the URL,
It's all right.
so I'm sure you can go to the Dollhouse so you
Mm-hmm.
can find it.
Yeah.
Um, I do also offer a pro bono service where if you're a McCam and you want career advice about being an engineer or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I can help you out there.
It's great. It's great.
And also, I'm starting to open source some of my stuff. So a lot of my designs I'm just putting online.
On like GitHub.
For others, right? Not on GitHub. I haven't put that much out yet,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I'm in the process.
Okay.
And once I have a substantial amount, I'll make an announcement.
Okay. That's good to hear. That's great. Maybe
Yeah.
somebody can pick up some of your ideas and really build something with them. That's awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much for being on.
Yeah, 3D print, quadrant doll,
Mm-hmm.
print out a waifu, make your own waifu
Mm-hmm.
on a 3D printer. It'll cost about $200 for the 3D printer, and another $200 for a lot of. Well, just $200, but only $20 at a time for a lot of filament. It's
Right.
going to be about 10 pounds of filament.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot. Well, yeah.
But the 10 pounds, I mean, it's lighter than 75 pounds.
Yeah. Much less.
Look at
Much less.
And when you throw in the clothes and then all the plastic, it's probably going to be like 20 pounds.
Yeah. I think my doll weighs what 60 to 100 and something, 100 and something pounds. I don't know. It's quite heavy.
No, she weighs less than 75 pounds. She weighs more than 75 pounds. She's great, and it's a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, that's.
And most dolls are just under 75 pounds.
Yeah, she's quite top heavy, so I'm pretty sure she weighs a bit. All right, well, we'll see you guys next time on Grim Interviews, and this is the Grim Lord Revy Innovations and DP who's been here. And we are
always lurking in the shadows.
Yeah. And we are out. We'll see you next time.